Hey, welcome. This is Dan Dirksen from Digital Domination. I'm going to go over super schema, personalized, it's not theory, big, fast value up front, and we're going to show you proof rather than promise you things. So I'm going to go through, step through, and what you're going to see is what we do, what it's based on, how we're leveraging investigation and understanding how the algorithm works, and taking advantage of that to give Google more than it could ever dream of to ensure that we win all the authority we can to create the strongest entity on the internet and in maps so that we dominate the competition. What is schema? It's a machine-readable labels that you tell Google exactly who you are, what you do, where you are, what's on the page. It also infers relationships and authority from other entities. And why it matters is you get better interpretation from Google. You get richer results. There's higher local trust, and ultimately this leads to more calls, which is what every small business wants. You can see I've got a little screenshot of what it looks like, the JSON message that usually just gets plugged into the header of your website.
And then here's the patent proof, right?
This is proof that they value these things enough to protect them. They get the patents, and then we use these patents to kind of take a deep dive to understand what it is they're looking for and how we can best leverage it. And so you can see that basically there's location prominence, and they look at reviews, references, authority, and behavior. Behavior online, behavior in the physical world, authority, they care who's giving the information, references, how many references are saying that this is true, citations, and then reviews. So real people, other entities confirming these things. So outranking just isn't about proximity, right? It's not just that you're closer, it's that they understand all of these things, that they understand that, and they trust that what other websites, other entities are saying is true. Google also uses structured data, which is schema, for deduplication. So this allows them to consolidate entities and avoid fragmentation. Basically, it allows Google to understand exactly what it is that you do. And so if you can make your company or your small business look like a bigger entity, right, and organized such that entities with authority are underneath you and neatly organized, it's going to take that data. And if they come from trusted sources, it has no reason not to believe that it's true. Now, I was kind of talking about all this, and you can see that entity relationships matter, right? So a clean connected schema wins, and that's kind of what we build. That's what the attempt is. And then here's just kind of like, there are other ways of measuring how well we have implemented the schema, because they tell us that, how they use location to identify entities on a map and which one they identify. There's also scoring entities based on location. So we know that an entity gets a score based off their location and what Google knows about that location, right? And knows about that entity. So you can kind of think of this as there are two businesses that do the same thing next to each other. And Google is confident that one entity has a higher score based on its location because it's related to other entities. For example, it's related to the city, it's related to the state, it's related to the zip code, and the other entity does not. Well, based off that, they're going to rank the other entity higher. And that's what this patent goes over, is ranking a list of local businesses based off what it knows about them. So we always talk about trust. In maps, you want your Google business profile to be trusted more than anybody else's. And then it comes out to a knowledge graph, right? These knowledge graph, these KIDs are everywhere. You can search for them. You can use an API to go look them up. And location is the primary attribute, right? So they actually take this database, and the knowledge graph and location are tied together. So it turns out that every small business has a knowledge graph. That knowledge graph has a location in it. So we want to make sure that's solid, that we've given them as much information as possible through references, relationships to other entities, that Google understands in the schema, right? Not on the web page, just on the schema of where the entity, your small business, lives. It also wants to see those signals, believe it or not, on your web page. But the idea is that this is a fast lane, right? Where there's no competition and nobody's doing it. So if you are doing it on your website, great. If you're not doing it in your schema, you're missing a huge opportunity. And here, I'm talking about what we do, why it's premium research, premium results. We do an entity graph. So instead of a singular local business, we do an organization, a local business, a service, area served, same as geo, review schema on this JSON message. And we link to the Google business profile. We make sure that the NAP's consistent. We make sure that we talk about the categories that we're going to work with. We talk about, the place ID, the knowledge panels, the CID, appointment links, all the things, people want to work with a small business. They want to be able to make an appointment. The page level depth, they talk about service pages, facts, how-to, product offers. We're going to make this, everything that's relevant to the business, available for Google to come get in the schema, not just on the website, because the website takes more crawl power. So, which is interesting, because what ends up happening is if you serve Google and give them a great schema, you will get more crawl budget and they will look at the rest of your website more. If you have a great website and you have a poor schema, you will lose crawl budget, you won't have the same authority, and you'll have a hard time getting your great content scraped, trusted, and it won't have the same impact. So validation and QA, making sure that there are no errors, there's no warnings. This is exactly how Google wants to see the information. Is super important because we don't want to be penalized by the crawler. We want Google to love coming to our property and to learn a lot about our company quickly, easily, without errors. And then, I'm talking about the knowledge graph and basically the connection between the knowledge panel ID, the CID URL, Wikipedia correlation. That these things, we want them all to be connected in Google's eyes. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what our schema looks like. And this is just an example schema that we would do. So you get an idea of exactly like how in depth it is. You can see here, there's just facts, there's hours, there's entities, and it just goes on and on. I'll point out, I think here's a good example. This is a car dealership, and in this car dealership, they knows about, right? So this car dealership sells Buicks, Cadillacs, Chrysler, Dodge, GMC, Jeep, Ram. And what I've done is I've taken those brands and I found them on Wikipedia. And then I also found their knowledge panel IDs. So if I copy this URL and I paste it into Google, so it's just Google search, KGMID equals, and then the entity. Now you can see, so Google understands, look at this right panel, that this is a car make, GMC, and it understands this deeply. I don't need to tell it more, and it knows that our business knows about this because that's the type of cars they sell. So super, super powerful. And it's important that these Wikipedia links, let's just do another one. Sometimes we can get the Wikipedia link to populate. If it doesn't, that's all right. Sometimes there's a Wikipedia link where that feedback button is. Yeah, here you go. So Ram trucks, you can see the source Wikipedia. So Google trusts Wikipedia. I mean, you can see right here, this knowledge graph, which is an entity, and this is the most trustworthy source. And, here's some stuff from Google. So that's just how powerful this stuff is, why we included it. It's not a example, it's not, this stuff works for real. And we do the same things with the cities, right? So you see here, I have the place. So this is the place URL, the city area they serve. So we can throw that in there. You can see, and these are how we're correlating where our business is and who it serves and where it should show up in the schema. And then you can also see that we put in a Wikipedia link, right? Because we know Wikipedia is an authoritative source. So we're telling it, look, we say that it's here. Here's your link. And it's the same as Wikipedia and the knowledge panel ID. And so you can see that, okay, yep, that's the same location. And then here's the knowledge graph for it. And the reason why we're doing this is because these are references, right? That we serve or that this business serves this area. And you can see, another knowledge panel. So, and then the first link is Wikipedia. Surprised. They even rank it higher than the actual website of the village, which I think is funny. Google trusts itself more, and if you can reward it by telling it what it thinks is right, you will absolutely crush all of the competition. And so you can see we're like not even halfway done, right? This thing just keeps going. And we're talking about the services they provide, where they provide them, the offer catalog, the zip codes again. We have a sales event here. The purpose of this sales event is basically just to show that, hey, look, it's an opportunity to keyword stuff, throw some more stuff in there. You can put it in the past. It doesn't need to be an actual event. It could be, if you do throw events, that obviously wouldn't hurt if it was in the future, but we're showing that we're relevant and in the area. So that said, that's how we make a schema. So just a quick scroll up so you get an idea of how much stuff this actually is. It's a super schema, simple as that. So now what we're gonna get into is I'm gonna do a GeoGrid walkthrough. I just want, for demonstration purposes, show you that the competition, when I say like, digital domination, we know something you don't know. We're experts in this, so it's very easy for us to go into the local competition. We have the data. No one else is looking at this. Most marketing companies don't focus on maps, and they also don't have the tools to look at what's actually happening or the technical expertise to build something better. So if we view this on Google, great looking Google business profile, tons of reviews. Let's go and look at their schema. And so this is the Diamond District Dental website. And you can see here, I've thrown it into the schema validator. So shows me what the actual, text is. And so there's a video object. Great. No web page, no organization. So we're telling Google more a video. There's no address. There's some website. There's some, talks about the content URL. But other than that, do I even see hours? Let's see. Normally, name, address, phone number, none of that. And so let's just go back. This is third place. So far, it's kind of meaning what I expect. There's an article, great, sells the same information, name, address, phone number. Looks like we've got the name. Looks like we have phone numbers, no address. Some mentions of the website, no entity correlations. I'm not seeing anything saying that, this is related to Wikipedia and this is related to, this city. It's just kind of all over the place. So you're telling Google, this website's telling Google, if you have an article that you want to read about Diamond Dental or Diamond District Dental NYC, we have an article and we have a video. Nothing about a website, nothing about services, nothing about the organization, nothing about the founder, the people. So as we walk through this, 212, let's see how they look. A little less reviews, but yeah, overall, they filled it out. It's a complete profile. Let's see what's on their website. So 212 Smiling, and all right, they have this headline entry. You can see that they don't talk, Manhattan's leading implant cosmetic dental office. So you know what they do? They don't talk about where they're located. So, this obviously is this Manhattan's the drink, right? Just clarifying that Google does get confused if you don't tell it that this is the city of Manhattan in the state of New York. You're kind of leaving it up to Google to figure out. And the whole point of a schema is to directly tell Google in machine readable language what it wants to know. So this is kind of a miss, not a big deal. And then you can see here, they have the URL. Let's see, do they have the address? Let's see if they have the address. Come on. Surprise. Oh, there it is. We have an address. Yay. And so we saw the phone number, we see the website, and that's kind of it. Nothing spectacular, but they got the address in there, right? Name, address, phone number, website at a minimum. And we know it's a web page, and we know it's a medical organization. So I know a little bit more about this business than I did the previous, and they put reviews, right? So let's see how these reviews are. These reviews are actually pretty fresh. Great. They talk about the person, the name, they just put their initials. Let's see if they did it right. They're all, different initials. These reviews are kind of weak too, right? Tip-top teeth work. I'd like to see, you're going to take the time, put a review, put a good one in there, and make sure that it's talking about the things that you do at length. Overall, but better than the previous schema. Let's check out the #1 rank, right? This Contemporary Dental. Let's check out their GMB. Less reviews. I don't see anything here that's alarming. It's all filled out. Looks fine. All right. Let's look at their schema. Contemporary Difficult Minds. It's just a web page, and there's really not a lot to it, right? I would say the #2 probably has the best schema, and they don't even have their address. They don't have their phone number. So clearly, I would guess that they are closer in proximity to the location and have a better brand. So, we could step through that and investigate. If I take this name and I'm just going to simply drop it into Google, and you could see that it understands with the knowledge panel. Even with me all the way across the US, I'm in Vegas, you can see that here, it understands who I was looking for. One little trick we do is look, what if I took center off? Does it still know? And it does. Now the knowledge panel went away, right? Because they're not also known as this, which is something they could potentially fix, but very, very good. And if I delete this, will we still get it? And now we get a different result. So not bad. Let's see what happens with Smiling 212. It's kind of smart to put the area code in there. Oh, look at that. And you can see 212 Smiling. We were at the cosmetic dentistry showing up there. Very well done. And you can see that the authority of this with 463 explains why it's ranking a little better. Let's see if I delete it. Now, one of the things that they're probably the same business, but I would expect to pull the knowledge panel. So you can tell by me putting in 212 Smile Cosmetic Dentistry, I didn't get the knowledge panel, and I should have, because their other location is siphoning that authority because it's a totally different name. And then now you can see their website. There's no knowledge panels, which is interesting because 212 Smiling, let's see if that comes up. Yeah, no knowledge panel. And you get the 2 results as well. that tells me that they're not as strong. Now let's see for the number one. Yeah, and we saw that it came up right away. We're seeing what Google's seeing. And if I take the Diamond District NYC and I put it in, and this is an interesting one, is that I left off the NYC, which shouldn't have been enough to drop the knowledge panel, but because it's not also known as Diamond District Dental, we didn't tell Google that because I can see in their schema. We are getting their website all the way across the country. They're ranking nationally for Diamond District Dental, but locally, because if we go back to this patent where we're talking about location, and for Google, the algorithm figuring out which one to use, because Google doesn't totally understand who Diamond District Dental NYC is, I get Diamond Dental Group data. And this is really just showing the understanding that it has of this group of Diamond District Dental NYC. So in search, it's great, but in the knowledge panel, it's lacking. And this is where you get all the authority. And if you want to outrank the big guys on maps, this is where it's done. So just kind of like, to sum all this up, we're using what Google's telling us that matters, and we're building a monster schema to beat everybody else. And you can see from these three results, very few people are doing what we're doing. And this is the stuff that, we charge $1,500 for. It takes us, several hours of research and implementation to get right, so there's no errors, and it contains all the powerful pieces that you need to rank. And this is the opportunity you have, is to do things better in a way that Google's looking for so that you can outrank your competitor. It's not just on your website, especially with AI coming in. You get absolutely amazing results using the schema because of the authority from Wikipedia, the most trusted site on the internet, because of the power of the references that you are, these entities that you're making relationships with your business. So I hope you found this helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Always happy to dig in and answer them. And thanks for watching.